All right, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Welcome to Board of Adjustment, May 28th. We will start with Pledge of Allegiance. If you guys will join me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Strickland will lead us in invocation tonight.
Lord, we just want to thank you for another day. Thank you for the opportunity to gather as a community and to do business together. Lord, coming out of Memorial Weekend, we just want to take a moment and recognize those who paid the ultimate price and the families who continue to live with that sacrifice and that loss. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. All right, let's get this out of the way. We've all got the minutes in our packet. We're going to do the agenda first. We all have the agenda in our packet. Are there any changes to the agenda? All right, then I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as written.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Now we'll do the minutes. We've got the minutes in our packet. If there's no questions about them, I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from the last meeting.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. Unanimous too. All right. We have got 3 items up in front of us tonight. They are public hearings. Because we are Board of Adjustments, and these are all special use permit applications. It's a quasi-judicial hearing. You can only hear testimony from experts in these cases. So we won't be hearing general public comments in this case, unfortunately. At this time, Ms. Veronica will swear in anyone who's going to be testifying in any of these 3 hearings. So if you guys don't mind, if you haven't already, make a line over here by Ms. Hardaway, and she will get you sworn in. If she's the one who applied. Jennifer, are you going to speak tonight? Or if they have questions for you, we might. They're safe and sound. All right, thank you guys. First up, we have a special use permit from Matthew and Jennifer Sloan. Jeff, if you'd like to present it to us, I will open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight we have 3 special use permit applications before you, and the first one will be for 27 South Wilma Street. And the request is to build an accessory dwelling in an R10 zoning district. Request is to, and this is sort of where the property is. It's a rather large piece of property, a little over an acre in size, and again, it's on corner of Lillington and Wilma Street. Here's the site plan that the applicant provided for you all, and it was in your packet. Currently, this is the home that is on the property. There's currently a building on the property, and this is where the proposed 30 by 30 accessory dwelling unit will be located. In the town of Anger, in our ordinances, accessory dwelling units are a special use permit, and that's where you all would hear from the applicant and any neighbors, any experts about the impact of this on the neighborhood. There are 3 special regulations in the ordinance that speaks to accessory dwellings, and those that they are: the accessory dwelling unit shall not exceed 1/2 of the total area of the principal dwelling, shall be built to North Carolina Building Code standards, and accessory dwellings shall be similar in appearance and compatible with the primary structure. The applicant is here and can answer any questions that you have, and I can answer any questions that you might have prior to the applicant coming up.
All right, so you have reviewed her application, and they meet the 3 criteria that we have set.
Correct. The proposed 30 by 30 building is less than 1/2 of the size of the current structure, and any building that is going to be habitated will be built to North Carolina building standards whenever a permit is obtained, and that the accessory dwelling is in keeping with other buildings in the neighborhood in the primary structure.
All right, I have 2 other questions that aren't necessarily specific to this case, but I want to ask them.
Okay.
For other cases like this, from my own knowledge, this is the first one like these I've done.
Right.
When it's an ADU, what I refer to it as, if I'm wrong, correct me, but does it not have to conform to the 40% rule that regular accessory structures do?
Well, it says that the accessory dwelling shall not exceed 1/2 of the total area of the principal dwelling. So I think that,
So it kind of takes it out.
I think it takes it out of that.
Okay.
Yes.
And then we don't have anything in our ordinance that prohibits the use of a structure like this, like some other municipalities have, has to be lived in by a family member, or?
We do not.
Okay.
No. That is something I've seen, though, in other places. But that honestly would probably be hard to regulate.
Yeah, I'm sure that it would. So like I said, that's not necessarily specific
Sure.
to this case, but more for my own understanding of that.
Yep.
Does anyone have any questions for Jeff or
I
Ms.
have a
Sloan
question.
about this?
And I don't know if this really affects how we're able to vote and stuff tonight, but I know that one of the concerns is drainage from a neighboring property. And I'm not sure how we can guarantee that building up one is not going to cause runoff on the other. And so I don't know if that can be spoken to, or if that's irrelevant in how we.
Well, we haven't had any testimony that speaks to that there is a problem. So you all may want to investigate that.
Do you want to speak? She didn't get sworn in because it was expert, but the neighbor is here. I don't know if.
It's up to the board.
Public hearing, I think it would be suitable for us to ask the applicant
Yes.
some of these questions. So
Yes.
if you don't mind, Ms. Sloan.
Do I need to introduce myself and say my address? Jennifer Sloan, 27 South Wilma Street. As far as the drainage is concerned, Julie and I have spoken. We do have a lot that floods. Some of that is due to Andrew's ditch that runs along Lillington Street. We have expressed concern to the town multiple times, both myself and Julie, that ditch needs to be fixed. It needs to be repaired. There's standing water in that ditch at all times. However, to help out on our part, when we do build this, we have already talked to 2 different drainage companies. One has already said that we could put in French drains to help alleviate some of the extra runoff that will be possibly happen because of the impervious I'm speaking about things that I don't really know, just words they tell me. The impervious area, as we put in a building, that adds more impervious area, I guess. And so they talked about French drains. They talked about the possibility of a berm even on the back end of our property, because there is a ditch that runs along the back end of our property between my property and Julie's property that is not maintained by the town. So we would go in, rework that ditch so that we were doing our part to maintain that ditch to be sure that it is ready for a new unit, accessory dwelling unit, to be there. And then we would also make sure that we were doing our part as far as the need for a French drain or whatever might be needed. And then in the application, it also said if there's anything that's on the town's part, we would ask them to fix that ditch along Lillington Street to help with the drainage there.
Okay.
So one of the things that you all could add to an approval is a condition that drainage be addressed during the building permit process.
Is there any limitation to what can be put in this building? Is it can it be storage? Can it be
Yes, it
a
can.
home?
It is going to be a home.
Okay.
That's,
Right.
that's the accessory dwelling unit.
Yeah.
Is its intent is to be a home. If it was a storage building, we wouldn't be here.
Okay.
We would
Just
have
want to
issued the permit.
make sure that was very clear that,
Yeah.
you know.
But if sometime in the future, someone doesn't live in it and it becomes storage for whatever reason, that's fine too. Yeah.
Half my house is storage anyway, so.
True. Yeah.
And there's no variance or anything being requested here, correct?
There's no variance being requested. No.
The structure's still within the setbacks, the normal
Correct.
setbacks.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Anyone else? Do we want to add the drainage condition? How do we do that procedurally? We want to add a condition to make sure drainage is addressed.
You ask the applicant if they're willing to have that condition, and if that's a condition that the applicant and the board agree on, and it addresses such that it brings the property into compliance with one of those 5 factors. If adding that condition will help them meet that factor in the eyes of the board, you can ask the applicant.
Okay. Do we need her back up here to ask her that?
That would probably be appropriate.
All right. Ms. Sloan,
Yes, sir.
would you be agreeable to a condition that you address any drainage concerns brought on by this specific ADU?
As long as Andrew does their part to fix the culvert that is along Lillington Street.
I just
So
want
there's
to,
a little bit of 2 sides of the coin here.
Yeah.
Anything that we cause, we're happy to deal with, but
Yeah.
there's already an existing problem
yeah,
that
I-
is in a
I-
culvert
I wanna
that we
make
do
sure-
not maintain.
for your sake, that what we're asking you relates, or your responsibility is specifically related to the construction of this structure.
Right.
So if there's a drainage problem that's not because of this ADU, that's not what I'm asking you to
Okay.
add, just for the direct impact of this structure.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. If there's no more questions, I think we have seen these before, so if it's all right, I'll just start going through them. 4A. Raise your hand if you agree that the requested use will not impair the integrity or character of the surrounding or adjoining districts. That's unanimous. 4B, raise your hand if you agree that the requested use will not be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare. Unanimous?
Just to clarify, you're voting with the condition that you discussed.
Yes. Okay. Do I need to say that for everyone, or just have said it?
Understood.
Okay. 4C, raise your hand if you agree that adequate utilities, access streets, drainage, sanitation, and/or other necessary facilities have been or are being provided, specifically the condition we added for the drainage. Raise your hand if you agree with C. That's unanimous. For D, raise your hand if you agree that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress, so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets. Raise your hand if you agree with D. That's unanimous. For E, if you agree that the special use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except as such regulations may in each instance be modified by the Board of Adjustment, raise your hand if you agree with E. So, therefore, the special use permit is granted.
Thank you, Board.
Thank you, Jeff. I'll close the public hearing on that one. I forgot. Sorry. We'll move on to the next one, which is Mary Bowden, and then I will open the public hearing for that one.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight, we have a special use permit request to relocate an existing business in town, Tattoo Serenity, to an existing building at 511 North Raleigh Street, Suite B. It's in the Andrew Plaza. It's this corner building. It was the headquarters bar location, if you're familiar with that. It's right at the corner of Rawls Road and North Raleigh. Apparently, the bar ceased to exist, closed down some months ago, and we have Mary is wishing to relocate her business to this new location. Let's see. It's general commercial, and in general commercial, a tattoo, body piercing, and permanent makeup studio is a special use permit within the general commercial business. There are no special regulations that are associated with that type of use. It's just going through the findings of fact.
Okay. Does anyone have any questions for Jeff on this issue? All right, if there's no other testimony, I'll close the public hearing. We'll go through the findings of fact. 4A, if you agree that the requested use will not impair the integrity or character of the surrounding or adjoining districts, raise your hand. Unanimous. Or B, if you agree that the requested use will not be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare, raise your hand. That's unanimous. Or C, if you agree that adequate utilities, access streets, drainage, sanitation, and/or other necessary facilities have been or are being provided, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Or D, if you agree that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets, raise your hand. It's unanimous. Or E, if you agree that the special use shall, in all other respects, conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except as such regulations may, in each instance, be modified by the Board of Adjustment, raise your hand. It's unanimous as well. So that special use permit is approved.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board.
It takes longer to read through this than it does for you to present some of these. That's all right, though. It's what we're here for.
That's right.
All right. Third one on the agenda, Delta Land Design Special Use Permit Application. I'll open the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor, members of the board. Tonight, we have a special use permit request to have a planned unit development located along East Wimberley Street. The planned unit development, it proposes to construct 67 townhomes and 5 single-family homes on approximately 9.82 acres. This is the location here. Again, it's along East Wimberley Street, and the stars are approximately where the project would take place. It takes part of some of this tract of land and part of this tract of land and this whole entire part of this tract of land. Zoning is R10, and in R10, a planned unit development is a special use permit request, and that's what we're here tonight. If we look at our future land use plan, our future land use plan has this as medium density. And if we recall, medium density is in that 3 to 4.5 units per acre range. This project that you see on the screen that's in your packet here is, again, 67 townhomes, 5 single-family homes. The proposed density is 7.06 units to an acre with a minimum lot size of 500 square feet. Average lot size has not been listed. And in the special use permit application and as a planned unit development, the applicant is proposing to differ from our normal parking standards, which is something they can do. Again, a planned unit development is an opportunity for a developer to provide for a creation of a well-planned environment through the application of flexible and diversified land development standards. So creating their own standards to create that well-planned development. A planned development is intended to encourage the application of new techniques and technology to residential in this case, which will result in a more comprehensive development arrangement with lasting functions and appeal. It's further intended to achieve broader goals such as economic land development, consideration of environmental conditions, efficient street systems, utility networks, usable, attractive open spaces, and general well-being of the town's inhabitants. A little background on the plan, and the applicant can speak a little bit to this whenever they give their testimony. The plan started back in the fall of last year, going through plan review. When we first had this submitted to the town, it was a townhome only community consisting of 72 units, which is the same as we have today. Staff reviewed that plan and sent the comments to the applicant that would have made the development density. We sent comments to the applicant to the effect we were reviewing the project against the townhome ordinance standards, specifically perimeter buffering and the need for 2 points of ingress egress when you have over 50 units. With those comments being made, the project would have changed and most likely the density would have been reduced. The applicant chose to submit for a planned unit development, and in a planned unit development they can again make their own zoning and keep the 72 units as it is. Just a couple of notes. So what would have happened under a normal townhome development is there would have been a 50-foot landscape or perimeter buffer along Wimberley Street, and there would have been 30 feet perimeter buffering around the entire site. And there would have been a need for 2 points of ingress egress. So those are some major things that differ between a townhome only community and a planned development. We've recently sent some comments to the applicant during our last review, which was a couple weeks ago, last week maybe. Their plan as presented speaks about open space, but what they're considering as active open space, which is the square here, is in fact passive open space as defined in our ordinance, not as active open space. So they're not currently showing a plan to the town that meets the criteria of the planned unit development.
Could you really quick tell me what differentiates between active and passive?
Well, our ordinance speaks to this type of area, open space, as being a green or a square that's bounded by streets. A square could potentially have a gazebo in it, some other kind of shelter. That's what we have in here. An active open space would include such things as that would be programmed playgrounds, equipment, something that you go there to actively recreate.
So it's very literal to the definition then?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. So that's a little different and something that's currently not meeting our ordinance.
Mm-hmm.
Again, the applicant may be able to speak to that and be able to give you some insight on what their plan is for this. Any questions of me before you all hear from the applicant?
Any questions at this time? All right, we'd be happy to hear from the applicant if they'd like to speak.
All right. Good evening, good evening. I'm Brian Duncan. I'm one of the principals with Delta Land Design, and this is Will Farrell. He's also with Delta Land Design, one of the engineers. First, before I give my testimony, just want to respond to the plan. We understand that there's still some comments that were just issued. There were some comments that were provided May 13th to us regarding the open space, and we're willing to continue working with staff to address those. But this is the first time it's come up, to my knowledge. So we're happy to do that. And then I'll just get into the plan real quick. I'd like to submit and request that the clerk enter our application and supporting documents, reports, and materials into the official record. I'll just move real quick through the findings of fact and be available for questions, as will from my team. The requested use will not impair the integrity or character of the surrounding or adjoining districts. Our design contains adequate buffering and open space areas along adjoining properties. And this is to provide a transitioning area between densities. The proposed residential use is consistent with the adjoining residential properties. We are going to be providing amenities such as a gazebo and open areas that promote community, provide usable areas for the residents. And our proposed facade and design conditions set out that in our application, they provide a higher quality development standard, which is to hopefully improve the local property values. I'll move through B. The requested use will not be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare. The use is residential in nature and will be the same or similar to surrounding uses. Residential land uses are generally not as intense, and as certain commercial or industrial uses, and don't produce any unreasonable levels of noise, light, dust, or any other types of emissions by their nature. There will be one site driveway with proposed future stubs to the east. There will be 2 future stubs for potentially additional development to the east. We are proposing 1 driveway access because that is all DOT will grant us. We can't have 2 driveways very close together. The minimum is usually anywhere from 200 to 500 feet, depending on the DOT district. But the 1 site driveway will utilize a 29-foot back-to-back asphalt roadway section with curb and gutter and a 5-foot sidewalk on both sides to provide a safe way for property owners to access amenities, avoid incursions with traffic. And additionally, there'll be a 5-foot sidewalk provided along East Wimberley Street, and that is to connect future pedestrian traffic along the corridor, especially since we're pretty close to downtown here, within a half mile. It's our hope that residents of this neighborhood will be able to walk to downtown in the future. C, adequate utilities, access, streets, drainage, sanitation, and other necessary facilities have been made or are being provided. The property will be served by existing Town of Andrew sewer, which is available for connection to the north there. The sewer extension, as well as the interior sewer lines, will be installed by the developer and dedicated to the town. We have added a condition that a downstream sewer study be completed at construction drawings to identify any potential downstream effects. Water services available along East Wimberley Street via approximately 10-inch PVC main there. We will be extending water into the site. The developer will be building it and dedicating it to the town. A fire flow analysis was conducted in front of the site, and the town currently has adequate flow to meet the state standards for fire flow. The development will include a stormwater detention device there to the north and is designed where the total post-developed stormwater discharge rate shall not exceed the pre-developed rate for the 1, 2, and 10-year storm. That was in one of our written conditions. As an additional condition, each residence will be served by a rollout cart for trash pickup, and there'll be no unsightly dumpsters. The U.S. mail will be provided via a common mail kiosk as required by the Postal Service. D, that adequate measures will be taken to provide ingress and egress, so designed as to minimize traffic congestion into the public streets. We believe this design provides safe and adequate access from the public right-of-way of East Wimberley Street for vehicular traffic. It's located on and accessed by East Wimberley Street, a DOT road which will support the density proposed. And I'll just add that any additional requirements that are made by DOT as we move forward in the project will be complied with as part of that driveway permit application process. And E, that any special use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except for such regulations may in each instance be modified by the Board of Adjustments. Our plans will meet all the applicable regulations once the site plan is fully worked through. The 14 voluntary conditions attached will promote a higher quality product, and all construction drawings will meet or exceed all local regulations and are subject to approval by town staff. I'm here for any questions if you have any, and members of our team as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any questions for this witness?
Actually, yes, I do. I've got a couple. So looking at your drawing, you're suggesting that we allow current city trash pickup in this whole neighborhood.
Yes, sir.
Do you not see some kind of an issue with just pick the 6 individual standalone homes at the far end, since there's no way for a trash truck to turn around in there?
So we are providing a turnaround at the
You're
very end.
providing a parking spot. It's not a turnaround.
It's a temporary turnaround.
There is, I mean, that's by the code too. There's
Okay. All right, because the way it looks on the thing is because you've numbered it like a parking spot with other places.
It's right here. It's this right here. That's a parking space, but this is the turnaround.
So that is a parking space to help provide more visitor parking.
How are the current residents going to park?
They will be parking in the driveway and or garage, and we've also provided a fair number of visitor spaces in the community as well.
And what is your current plan? So 3 cars per space, 2 cars per unit?
2 cars per unit plus a ratio of visitor spaces.
And there's a driveway, and then is it a single car garage?
Correct.
There's no other questions for this witness. I have some questions for Jeff. You guys are good with him.
Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, do you have the clicker for the screen?
I do.
Because I'm going to make you dance all around this.
Let's go.
Let's start with your description of the planned unit development. You can get to that for me. Thank you. It's easier for you to put there. I can see it better.
Good.
All right, so I will make some observations, and you could correct me if I understood it wrong. The reason that this is not a standard townhome community is because the 5 units on the top that were obviously 5 joint units have been separated into 5 single family units.
Correct.
And so that alone has allowed it to fall into a planned unit development. Therefore, they don't need to meet parking requirements, ingress, egress requirements, buffer requirements that we would normally have if this was a townhome community.
Correct. Our ordinance speaks to a mix of uses or densities or housing types.
Yeah, I when you read this, I was reading through it myself. And personally, I'm having a hard time seeing how this project meets the description here. There's no commercial, office, light industrial. I don't see an application of new techniques or technology. I don't see an effort to achieve broader goals such as economic land development, efficient street systems and utility networks, usable, attractive open spaces, and general well-being. So I understand that, technically what they've done lets it fall into this category.
Correct.
But I'm having a hard time seeing that it meets the intent. Now, I don't think we can make decisions based on that tonight. It's merely an observation.
Right.
The one question I did have, is this currently R10 right now?
Currently is R2.
It's currently R10. So this would effectively make that zoning obsolete. It's going to be zoned what they're asking for tonight.
Right.
Their density is 7.06 units per acre, is what the other page showed.
Correct.
That doesn't seem to me to meet medium density, that we've got the comprehensive land use plan. It's planned for that to be a medium density area. And it connects to mostly single family homes. I understand maybe 2 blocks down there's one row of townhomes towards the park, I think.
Correct.
But everything else around it that is developed are individual single family homes, all in R10. I'm just having a hard time seeing how. I mean, this is packed in tight. I don't know that they could fit any more units in here without buffers, without ingress, egress, without required parking. That is our intention of a town and how we want to see a medium density area developed. It does not seem to conform with that to me. So that's not a question, but I wanted you to pipe in if I had understood something wrong.
No, your observation is correct. I mean, it's fairly simple that we have a medium density designation. If you were to take a look at our zoning and what a medium density would look like, it would generally be between R10, R15 type of development. So quarter acre lots or third acre lots is that medium density. Again, between 3 to 4 units to an acre, maybe a little bit more.
I understand the definition of that specifically has some flexibility, but I mean, we seem to be double potentially that density in this case.
From 4 to 7, 3.5 to 7.
Yeah.
I think you are looking at a doubling of the density.
And because it's a PUD, I'm imagining that that's why we don't have to discuss any kind of traffic study.
Well, there was a traffic study that was done.
Okay.
And you can ask the applicant what requirements were suggested in that traffic study. And the plan was amended to address those traffic study recommendations.
Okay. Well, I don't want to get sucked down the traffic rabbit hole.
Right.
But it's.
I think there was a suggestion from the plan and from the traffic analysis to have an increased driveway where it's there's a traffic directional arrow that goes both ways and across. But again, the applicant could speak a little bit more to the findings.
Well, I know how the traffic game goes on a Board of Adjustment thing.
Sure.
So personally, I'm not going to delve into that right now, except to note that Wimberley is not one of our major roads. It's not 55-210, but it is one of the other 2 major roads into town that aren't that, which I'm considering Rawls Church being one and Wimberley being another main way into town, especially if you're trying to get to Garner or Old Stage or anywhere like that.
Right.
And if you're not going there, you're going to Broad Street, which is 25 mile an hour. Again, just an observation.
Correct.
But I will trust that they had the traffic study done.
They did.
I will trust that they met
They
the
did.
requirements of that traffic study.
As it was developed, yes,
Mhm.
they have.
That's for me, at least. If anyone else wants to ask, I'll accept
So-
the traffic thing. But
So I knew that the question or the comments or how do we sort of, how does the town, how does our ordinance look at our comprehensive plan in relation to development? And I'm always reading the ordinance, and there is a section 1.6. Sometimes those are the beginning stages of the ordinance. And it is interesting that our ordinance does say, all new development shall be designed in conformance with adopted plans, including but not limited to adopted comprehensive transportation plans, small area plans, land use plans, parks and recreation plans, and any other adopted plans. That's straight from our ordinance. And when you go to ask the applicant or consider this request, this is ordinance language that you will need to consider.
does anyone else have any questions for Jeff?
Yeah, anybody here that wants to-
And I'm an
Okay.
expert.
What's the small area plans? What's that considered?
Small area plans may be where if we had something happening along Wimberley or a location of town where we would study that neighborhood or that major intersection, and we would have a plan that would be sort of drilled down a little bit from our overall comprehensive plan of the town. So we may have those one day. Right now, we have a comprehensive plan that looks at the entire town, but we could easily have a small area plan that's downtown specific or along the bypass at major intersections of the bypass. Those could be small area plans that would have finer details as to what the town wants.
Any other questions for Jeff before I close the public hearing part?
Jeff, when we look at the total 9.82 acres, I know they don't have a dedicated active play area, but do they meet the total set aside?
Yes.
Okay.
They do. Yes, there's quite a bit of environmental area along the back. Let's see, where's my dot? I think it is wetlands, yes, in this area here, and then they have spaces around the buildings themselves in this area and along this area here as open space.
I haven't got any more questions for you, but I am eager to discuss with the board some things. So if nobody else has any more questions for Jeff, I'll close the public hearing part. Thank you for bringing that up, Jeff. I have a hard time with the density. Is my biggest concern. It's a lot. I mean, they're packed in.
They are.
I don't. You can't fault them for finding a way to get it this way. I mean, that's how business is done, and if our ordinance allowed it through like this, then that is what it is. I cannot get past the density. And if you consider section 1.6 that Jeff just showed us, it doesn't seem to conform to that on density alone. So that's what I have to say. That's my feelings on this one.
Yeah.
It doesn't seem to match the surrounding areas. I mean, I will concede that there is that one strip of townhomes closer to the park. But everything else around there is single family, out to farmland, which, we're not really considering, but the density of that part of town in the comprehensive use is R10. We want to see medium density over there. But I just don't feel like that meets a person for me.
Mr. Chairperson, Chairman,
I'm both.
Bob.
Yeah.
This is one of those where if a PUD's more give and take, where input we've given and things change a little bit, I think are one thing. But the buffering the front on Wembley, the side buffering, the parking, the change of density, there are just so many things that change here that I just can't see this benefiting and not having a negative impact on the people in that area.
I feel the same way on all of those. They skirted around good, through our ordinances allowed them to apply like this, but they have skipped past every intent to fit well in an area with the buffers. For the people that live there and have to park there, they don't have to meet parking requirements. They have one central visitor parking area that only seems really to functionally service about half of these units. So I'll have to agree with you on that. I don't have a problem with PUDs, and I wouldn't deny it because they have applied it like this, because they have every right to apply in this fashion in this case, but I have the same concerns you do. Anyone else have anything they'd like to add? Okay. We have 7, so remind me is it simple majority? Okay. Well, if you guys are ready, I'll get right to it. All right. If you agree that the requested use will not impair the integrity or character of the surrounding or adjoining districts, if you agree with that statement, raise your hand. If you do not agree with that statement, raise your hand. That's unanimous. We'll carry on through all of them anyway, out of courtesy to the applicant. 4B, if you agree that the requested use will not be detrimental to the health, morals, or welfare, you agree with that statement, raise your hand. If you disagree with that statement, raise your hand. We have majority. 4C, if you agree that adequate utilities, access streets, drainage, sanitation, or other necessary facilities have been or are being provided, if you agree with that statement, raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. You yay or nay? Okay, if you disagree, raise your hand. So that one is still a majority, 4-3. If you agree that adequate measures have been or will be taken to provide ingress and egress so designed as to minimize traffic congestion in the public streets, raise your hand. If you disagree with that statement, raise your hand. So that is 4-3 in disagreement. 4E, if you agree that the special use shall in all other respects conform to the applicable regulations of the district in which it is located, except as such regulations may, in each instance, be modified by the Board of Adjustments. If you agree with that statement, raise your hand. And if you disagree, 6-1. So because we did not meet all of them, we cannot grant this permit at this time. All right. Well, I don't have anything else on my agenda, so I need a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All those in favor, raise your right hand. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.